Hello students, in the last class we discussed about few concepts in the chapter mechanical properties of solids. In the last class actually first we discussed about stress, different types of stress as well as Hooke's law and one type of modulus of elasticity. So first let us revise what are the things which we are discussed in the last class. First, elasticity means the property of the material by the virtue of which it regains its original shape and size just after the removal of deforming forces. First of all, what are deforming forces? The forces which are responsible for the change in shape and size of the body are called as deforming forces. Soon after the removal of deforming forces, if the body regains its original shape and size, those objects are called as elastic bodies. Otherwise, in some objects, if they do not regain their original shape and size, even after the removal of deforming forces, such objects are called as plastic bodies, and that phenomenon is known as plasticity. So next we discussed about stress. So what happens? So this deforming force tries to change the shape and size of the body. At the same time, the intermolecular force present in the object tries to restore the molecules to their original position, and hence the body regains its original shape and size. The internal restoring force developed per unit area is called as stress. Stress is given by S is equal to F divided by A, and its unit is Newton per meter square. And also we discussed about Hooke's law. So corresponding to the stress, actually inside the body strain will be produced. So stress indicates up to what extent the deforming forces are acting on a body, while strain indicates up to what extent the configuration of the body gets changed. So actually stress is the cause while strain is the effect. This stress and strain actually related by a law that is nothing but Hooke's law. Hooke's law states that within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain. Only within the elastic limit. What happens after the elastic limit? So if the stress is increased beyond the elastic limit, then the body do not regain its original shape and size. Therefore, only within the elastic limit, stress is directly proportional to strain, or stress by strain is equal to a constant. That constant is nothing but modulus of elasticity. One type of modulus of elasticity is Young's modulus. It is defined as the ratio of normal stress to the longitudinal strain, and the corresponding formula is y is equal to F into L divided by A into delta L, where F is the applied force, L is the original length, A is the area of cross section, and delta is the elongation produced in the wire. So next, so in case of a wire, when one end of the wire is attached to the fixed support, and to the another end when load is attached, the elongation will be produced in the wire. So even though there is no weight is attached, even though weight is not attached, elongation will be produced in the wire because of its own weight. So elongation produced in the wire is given by the formula delta L is equal to F into L divided by A into Y. So where M into G represents the force due to the weight attached to the wire into L by 2 divided by A into Y. So here delta L is equal to mgL divided by 2 into A into Y. So we know the formula for density. Density is given by mass by volume. Therefore mass can be written as volume into density, where volume means area into displacement or area into length, A into L into rho. Substitute here, then you will get elongation produced in the wire because of its own weight as rho into L square into G divided by 2 into Y, where rho is the density, L is the original length, G is the acceleration due to gravity, and Y is the Young's modulus. Okay students, next concept, work done in stretching a wire. So when in order to increase the length of a wire or a spring, work has to be done. The work done required in order to increase the length of the wire is given by W is equal to half into Y into A into L square divided by L, where small l is the elongation produced in the wire, where capital L is the original length of the wire, A is the area of cross section. We know that the work done is always stored in the form of what? Potential energy. We know that there are two forms of energy. One is the potential energy and another one is the kinetic energy. The work done is always stored in the form of potential energy. So potential energy of a stretched string Potential energy stored in a stretched string is given by U is equal to half into Y into L square. U is equal to half into Y into L square divided by L is there here. That can be written as half into F into L. So we know the formula for Young's modulus. By using the formula of Young's modulus, you can write half into Y into L square divided by L as half into F into L. Therefore, energy stored, potential energy stored in a stretched string or a wire or in a spring is given by U is equal to half into F into L, where F is the force and L is the extension. So, on dividing the both sides of the equation by volume, that is energy per unit volume, which is nothing but energy density, is given by UV is equal to half into F into L divided by volume can be written as area into displacement. That is UV is equal to half into here F by A, force acting per unit area, which is nothing but stress, where L by L, which is nothing but strain, change in dimension to the original dimension, which is nothing but strain. Therefore, energy density, energy per unit volume, energy stored per unit volume can be written as half into stress into strain. So we know that Young's modulus Y is equal to stress by strain. By using that relation, you can write UV is equal to half into Y into strain square. Using the same relation, you can write UV is equal to half into stress square divided by Y. So these are the different forms of what? Energy stored per unit volume. These relations are very important in order to solve the numerical problems. Next, breaking stress. So we know that when weld is attached to one end of the wire, its length increases. That means corresponding to the increase in stress, strain also increases. After a certain point, after a certain limit, what happens? Stress increases to a very large, strain increases to a very large extent, even for a very small increase in stress. That means the wire begins to flow freely and finally breaks. So that stress is nothing but breaking stress. The maximum stress up to which the material can withstand the load. The maximum stress up to which the wire can withstand the load is nothing but breaking stress. So next concept, breaking of a wire due to its own weight. So we know that stress is given by the formula stress is equal to force acting per unit area. So you can write breaking force is equal to breaking stress into area. So force due to the weight can be written as force due to the weight can be written as M into G, where mass can be written as volume into density, volume can be written as area into displacement. Therefore, M can be written as A into L into D, where A area of cross section, L length, D density into G acceleration due to gravity. That is equal to breaking stress is given by P into A, where A is the area of cross section. So by rearranging the terms, you can get L is equal to P divided by D into G. So this is the length at which the wire breaks. Okay students, next type of modulus of elasticity is bulk modulus of elasticity. It is defined as the ratio of normal stress to the volume strain, where normal stress is given by the formula F by A divided by volume strain is given by delta V by V. Since F by A is nothing but the pressure, that is bulk modulus of elasticity is equal to P divided by minus delta V by V. Here the negative sign indicates with increase in pressure there will be decrease in volume. So the reciprocal of the bulk modulus is called as compressibility, that is given by minus delta V by V divided by P. Next, third type of modulus of elasticity is rigidity modulus. It is defined as the ratio of tangential stress to the shearing strain. So that is F by A divided by delta X divided by L. In case of rigidity modulus of elasticity, there will be a change in shape. There will be, in case of bulk modulus of elasticity, there will be a change in volume. Okay students, next let us discuss few important points related to the property of elasticity. So next here, the body which requires greater deforming force to produce certain dimension, to produce certain change in dimension is more elastic. That means the body which requires more deforming force to produce certain change in dimension is more elastic. So for example here, in between steel and rubber, if you compare the elastic behavior of steel and rubber, The steel requires larger deforming force to produce certain change in dimension, and hence steel is more elastic when compared to the rubber. Actually, normally we will think rubber is more elastic than steel, but that is wrong. Steel is actually more elastic when compared to the rubber. Next, when equal deforming forces are applied on different bodies, then the body which shows less deformation is more elastic. So when equal deforming forces are acting on different bodies such as steel as well as rubber, the body which shows lesser deformation is usually more elastic. So here also we will consider the example of steel as well as rubber. So the steel shows lesser deformation when compared to the rubber wire, and hence steel is more elastic when compared to the rubber. Next, when you compare the gas with solids, here gas is most compressible or less elastic, while solids are most, that is, bulk modulus of gas is very less when compared to the solids and liquids. That is, bulk modulus of solids is greater than liquids, which is greater than gases. Bulk modulus of solids, bulk modulus is more or maximum in case of gases, and it is least in case of gases. Okay students, next last part of this chapter, applications of elastic properties of the materials. So by understanding the elastic properties of the materials, it is possible to calculate the thickness of the rope used in the cranes. So in the cranes, normally we will use metal ropes. What should be the particular thickness of the metal rope? That can be calculated by understanding the knowledge of what? The elastic behavior of the materials. Next, maximum height of the mountain on the surface of the earth can also be calculated by understanding the elastic behavior of the materials. Next, bending of beam. So normally this the elastic behavior of the materials plays a very important role in everyday life. So for example, in the construction of buildings, so the structural design of columns, beams or pillars requires the knowledge of elastic behavior of the elastic strength of the materials used. So normally in the construction of buildings, we will use pillars, bridges as well as columns, and in case of bridges, the bridge has to withstand its own weight as well as the load of flowing traffic as well as force due to the wind also. And in case of buildings also, the pillars has to sustain the load. In both the cases, the bridge, in case of buildings as well as in case of bridges, the columns as well as pillars do not bend or break. So I will consider a beam here. It is having a length L as well as depth D and breadth B. So when the load is attached at the center, when the load W is attached to the center, then what will happen? You will see the depression produced. So here the depression produced in the beam is given by W into L cube divided by BD cube into Y. Here W is the weight attached to the load, where L is the length of the beam or column, B is the breadth and D is the depth, and Y is the Young's modulus. So in order to avoid the bending of this beam, so we should use the material which is having larger value of Young's modulus. And also from this formula, it is clear that deviation produced in the beam is inversely proportional to the breadth. That means it is directly proportional to the b to the power of -1. At the same time, it is inversely proportional to the d cube or d to the power of -3. So in order to minimize the depression produced in the beam, so we should increase the depth. Rather than increasing the breadth, it is better to increase the depth. If you increase the depth, so the depression produced in the beam will be automatically decreased. So even if you increase the depth, if the weight is not exactly placed at the center, then on that case also there is a chance of bending of the pillar. So that is called as buckling. In order to avoid this buckling problem, normally we will use I-shaped beams. In the construction of bridges as well as buildings, normally I-shaped beams are used for this purpose only. So usually we will observe while observing the bridges, we will observe the use of I-shaped beams. So because of this reason, in order to withstand the maximum load without any bending or without any break, so we will use I-shaped beams. In case of buildings also, so in case of buildings also, these round shaped beams do not sustain large amount of load. So these distributed ends pillars sustain larger amount of load, and hence normally we will use distributed ends. Pillars having distributed ends are normally used in the construction of buildings. So here, by understanding the knowledge of behavior of elastic properties, you can calculate the thickness of the rope used in the crane, and also you can calculate the maximum height of the mountain present on the earth's surface, as well as bending of beam. How can you avoid the bending of the beams which are used in the bridges as well as in the construction of buildings? Okay students, next we will discuss few MCQs which are appeared in the previous year's NEET as well as JEE exams. So there are two wires here. Wires A and B are made up from same material, that means their Young's modulus is same. The wire A has twice the radius and 3 times the length of the wire B. When each wire is stretched to the same extent, calculate the ratio of the energy stored in the wire A to that of the energy stored in the wire B. So there are two wires A and B. So here they are made up from the same material. That means first write the given values. Young's modulus is same. Y is same for both the materials, for both A and B. Next, the wire A has the radius 2 times that of what? The radius of the wire B. That means if RA is the radius of the wire A, then that is equal to 2 times the radius of the wire B. Next, and the length of the wire, how many times? The length of the wire A is 3 times the length of the wire B. LA is equal to 3 times the length of the wire B. Then calculate the ratio of energy stored in the wire A to that of wire B. You know the formula for energy stored in the wire, that is given by U is equal to half into F into L, where F is the applied force. Here, when both the wires are stretched to the same extent, that means force is also same here, where L is the extension produced in the wire. So now it can be written as U is equal to, so you know the formula for Young's modulus, that is Y is equal to F by A into L by L. Now L can be written as L is equal to, here small l is equal to once again U is equal to half into F into L. So now L is equal to F L divided by Fl divided by A into Y. Now substitute the value of L in this equation, then you will get U is equal to half into F into, here L can be written as F into L divided by A into Y. U is equal to half into F square L divided by A into Y. So here F is also same, Y is also same. You can neglect those two terms. Then you can write F is directly proportional to L. What about A? A means area. Formula for area, pi r square. Pi is constant. You can neglect the value of pi also. Then you can write r square, where r is the radius. Now you can write for wire A, energy stored in the wire A can be written as UA is equal to LA divided by RA square. Similarly, for energy stored in the wire B, UB is equal to LB divided by RB square. You are asked to calculate the ratio of energy stored in the wire A to that of B. Take this equation as 1 and this one as 2. Dividing the equation 1 from 2, then you get UA divided by UB is equal to LA divided by RA square into RB square divided by LB, or that can be written as UA divided by UB. Length of the wire A is equal to how many times? 3 times the length of the wire B. LA can be written as 3LB divided by LB into RB square divided by radius of the wire A is equal to how many times? Radius of the wire is 2 times the radius of the wire B. So RA square can be written as 2RB whole square. So LB gets cancelled here. Then UA divided by UB is equal to RB square gets cancelled. 2 square 4. Therefore you will get the ratio 3 by 4. The ratio of energy stored in the wire A to that of B is 3 by 4 or 3:4. I will repeat once again. So there are two wires A and B. They are made up of from same material. That means their Young's modulus is same. They are acted upon by same force. F value is same. The change is the radius of the wire A is 2 times that of the radius of the wire B. Length of the wire A is 3 times the length of the wire B. You are asked to calculate the ratio of energy stored in the wire A to that of the energy stored in the wire B. Formula for energy stored in the wire is half into F into L. By using the formula of Young's modulus, you can substitute the expression for L here. So after writing this expression for L here, then you get the relation U is equal to half into F square into L divided by A into Y. Here I neglected the value of F and Y since they are same for both the wires. Then you get U is proportional to L by R square. Write the expression for U for both A and B. Divide the equation 1 from 2. Substitute the values of LA, LB, RA, RB. Then you get the ratio 3 by 4. Okay students, next problem. A 5 meter long aluminum wire having Young's modulus 7 into 10 power 10 Newton per meter square of diameter 3 millimeter supports 40 kg mass. In order to have the same elongation in a copper wire which is having Young's modulus of 12 into 10 power 10 Newton per meter square of the same length and under the same weight, what should be its diameter? So there are two wires, one is the aluminum and another one is copper. So diameter of the aluminum wire is 3 millimeter. What should be the diameter of the copper wire in order to produce the same elongation under the same weight? So you know the formula for Young's modulus, same formula you can use. So Young's modulus formula is given by Y is equal to F by A into delta L divided by L. L goes to the numerator. So where small l is the original length, delta L is the elongation produced in the wire. So elongation produced in the wire formula can be written as delta L is equal to F into L divided by A into Y. So they are acted upon by the same weight. Force is same. They are made up from different material. Young's modulus of the aluminum is different from that of Young's modulus of the copper. So here F is same. Both are having the same length. Original length L is also same. Next, there will be a change in what? There will be a change in Young's modulus only. So elongation produced in the aluminum wire is equal to F into length of the aluminum wire is same as that of the copper wire. Next, A into, here A means what? Area, that can be written as pi r square. Here diameter is different, so that can be written as pi r square or pi d square also. Pi d square or pi r square into Young's modulus of the which wire? Aluminum wire. Next, similarly, elongation produced in the copper wire is equal to F into L divided by pi d square. This is the diameter of the aluminum wire. Pi d square, diameter of the copper wire into Young's modulus of the copper wire. So in order to produce the same elongation, what should be the diameter? In order to have the same elongation means elongation produced in the aluminum wire is equal to elongation produced in the copper wire. That is delta AL of aluminum. Elongation produced in the aluminum wire is equal to elongation produced in the copper wire. Now that can be written as F into L divided by pi d square of aluminum into Young's modulus of aluminum is equal to F into L divided by pi d square of copper into Young's modulus of copper. So F and pi gets cancelled. Then you can write d square, take this term to LHS, it goes to the numerator, d square of Cu divided by d square of Al is equal to, here take Young's modulus of aluminum to RHS, it goes to the numerator, Young's modulus of aluminum divided by Young's modulus of copper. So now it can be written as d square of Cu divided by d square of Al is equal to Young's modulus of aluminum is equal to how much? 7 into 10 power 10. 7 into 10 power 10 divided by Young's modulus of copper, how much? 12 into 10 power 10. 10 power 10, 10 power 10 gets cancelled. Then you can write d square of Cu divided by d square of Al is equal to 7 divided by 12. So here diameter of the aluminum wire is given. That is equal to how much? 3 mm. You are asked to calculate the diameter of the copper wire. So now take square root on both sides. Then you can write diameter of the copper wire divided by diameter of the aluminum wire is equal to 7 by 12 whole to the power of 1 by 2. So 7 by 12. What is the value of 7 by 12? That is equal to 0.5, 0.58. 0.58 whole to the power of 1 by 2. How can you further simplify this one? 58 into 10 power minus 2 whole to the power of 1 by 2. So root of 58 is equal to how much? Almost equal to 7 point something. 7 point something. 10 power minus 2. Root of 10 power minus 2 is 10 power minus 1. So diameter of the copper wire to that of diameter of the aluminum wire is equal to 7 point something into 10 power minus 1. So therefore diameter of the copper wire is equal to, take this term to RHS, it goes to the numerator. Diameter of the aluminum wire is how much? 3 mm. That means 3 into 10 power minus 3 into 7 point something into 10 power minus 1. So diameter of the copper wire is equal to 21 point something into 10 power minus 4. That can be written as 2.1 into 10 power minus 3 meter. That is nothing but 2.1 millimeter, which is the diameter of the copper wire. So by this way you can calculate the diameter of the copper wire here. I will repeat once again. First use the formula of the Young's modulus, then obtain the expression for elongation produced in the wire. Write the expression for elongation produced in the aluminum wire as well as copper wire. In the problem itself they are given in order to have the same elongation, that means elongation produced in the both the wires are same. Equate the two equations, simplify here, substitute the values, take the square root here, simplify, then you get 2.1 millimeter as the answer. Okay students, next problem. Calculate the work done per unit volume in order to stretch the length of a wire by 1% whose area of cross section is 1 millimeter square. So given the Young's modulus of the wire is 9 into 10 power 11. So you know the formula for Young's work done per unit volume. Work done in order to stretch the wire is nothing but potential energy. Potential energy per unit volume is nothing but work done per unit volume. Formula for the energy stored in the wire is half into F into L per unit volume. And also that one is related with change in length by 1%, which is nothing but strain. So here energy per unit volume is related with strain and also with the Young's modulus. Why? So which one is the formula? So that is U is equal to half into Y into strain square. U is equal to half into Y into strain square. Use this formula. U is equal to half into Young's modulus value 9 into 10 power 11 divided by multiplied by strain square. Strain square is 1%. Strain is 1%. 1% means 1 by 100 square. So how can you simplify this one? So here 4.5 multiplied by 10 power 11. So here 1 by 100 means 10 power 2. So square 10 power 4. 10 power 4 goes to the numerator, it becomes 10 power minus 4. Now it becomes U is equal to 4.5 into 10 power 7. 4.5 into 10 power plus 7 joule is the answer. That is the work done per unit volume.